And I said, Dad, I am just about to tell you the most difficult thing you have ever heard. He could feel this was a moment, and his brain is probably scrambling around to think about what this could be. And he could have guessed 1,000 times. He would have never got anywhere near this answer. And I said, you remember X, who used to come around our house and help us out? He was actually sexually abusing me. And he pulled this facial expression that I'd never seen on him before. And he put his head in his hands and started rocking back and forth uncontrollably. And he let out this scream of what I would describe as pain.
What did that sound like to you?
It's devastating. It's devastating. Seeing your dad completely shattered. And I decided to stay at his that night, and I heard him cry hard.
Every man carries something. Expectations, silence, struggles, the weight of having to look unbreakable. The Dad Project is a home for real, unfiltered conversations on men's mental health, the kind that have been missing for far too long. We share powerful stories and raw perspectives from those living it and those guiding men through it. Filmed at the Old Court in Windsor, it's about breaking silence, reshaping strength, and creating conversations that actually matter. I'm your host, Naroop Juti. Let's talk. So Jeremy, your story is known, your mission is known. What's one question about your childhood that people never ask, but you wish they did?
What did the sexual abuse that you went through actually entail? What actually was it?
The details.
The details, yeah. People are so curious, but they don't want to ask the question because, of course, it's pretty intrusive and maybe thought of as too personal. But alongside that, giving the details is actually something that I'm interested in doing because it will allow people to understand the reality of this. Because we often are describing things as sexual abuse, which is, technically the term, but we also, our brains will hide behind that term, sexual abuse, because it's so uncomfortable. We won't actually think what it is or what it was. And I think if we as a society can actually be exposed to what it actually is, actually the details of an adult and a child, it will shock us into action. Possibly also shock us into repression, I understand, but shock a lot of people into action. At the very least, shock parents into action, which is needed.
Well, I think we'll go there in this conversation. But I can also understand why someone may not ask you.
Of course.
Because the minute you describe it, the minute it becomes real, the minute they start to visualize it, and for any person with a good moral nature to even hear the description of that is hard to listen to. But I do think it's important because it's only through knowing that dark side can we then start to create change. Because if we say, no, don't tell me, please don't tell me, let it, I know it's happening, but just don't tell me, it's out of sight, out of mind. I don't have to worry about it because I don't know about it. So I get it. I do get it, but I think it's important. So usually when I'm talking to guests around mental health, a lot of stuff starts in teenage years, maybe a little bit earlier. Your journey started very young. So we have to start very young. And I guess we have to dive right into it. You were 8 years old.
I was 8 years old. Well, actually, I have joined some dots to estimate that I was 8 years old.
Okay.
Where I was, the house I was living in, what friends I had. The actual age is not completely known.
Right.
There's some ideas. There's a reason why I can't actually find out for definite, but I'm still trying to push, and I will explain the reason a little bit later as we get through my story. But yeah, it starts around 8 years old. I was in year 4, and I was a energetic, confident, smiley, mischievous, little bit naughty young kid, but like your average kids, nothing out of the norm.
As you'd expect them to be. Young boy.
Young boys.
Yeah.
Great friends at school, very forward as well, confident, as I mentioned. But at home, there were some problems. And when I think about that, I'm often thinking about how this occurred, how this was allowed to occur. And one of those reasons was my parents had divorced, they'd separated.
Right.
So straight away, you have a vulnerability in the home because you've got one parent instead of two parents watching over the child. One set of eyes is a lot less than two sets of eyes. Right? It's half, right? So the child is in a vulnerable position, more vulnerable than two parents being in the home. A little bit difficult for people who are separated from their partner to hear, but just logically, that's the way it is. And this man, who was starting to groom me, came into the house because he was my dad's best friend. Well, one of my dad's friends, I should say. Best friend, maybe not. Again, information I can't find out right now. But he was helping my dad out with childcare. My dad was a busy man, doctor, working late at the surgery, unexpectedly needed to be on call overnight. So this man was a nurse working in the same hospital as my dad. So that's where the connection is. They must have got along like friends. The reason why I say that is because he was from Sri Lanka. My dad was from Sri Lanka. He was around the same age my dad was, which would have been around 35 at that time. And my dad was cut up by the divorce, right? It ripped him apart looking back at it now. So it would have been like a companion for him. So he would look after me. Maybe he'd be there ready for when I got back from school. My dad was still at the surgery. Maybe he'd pick me up from school. I can't really remember those finer details, but he had ill intention that no one knew about. And that was desire to manipulate and persuade young 8-year-old Jeremy to begin doing things with him that had a sexual context to them.
So I know it's hard for you to go back to that stage, but do you think that was his intention from the very beginning, or do you think opportunities arose where he thought he could do that?
One of my dreams is to be able to interview this man and put him on some kind of lie detector test where he can't lie, because they are very interesting questions and valuable questions for us to understand. Again, did he come in and there was some kind of opportunity that was arousing him in the setup? Maybe a power dynamic. Yeah. Maybe he was unsuccessful in all his other relationships and never had any power in them, and this was an opportunity for him. All of those. I mean, we could spend a whole podcast talking about the various ways. Or had he been doing this all his life, and this was a great opportunity for him? Who knows? But what we do know is I was a great candidate for him. I feel like I responded well. He must have gone through a process of praise. I mean, come on, look, you have an 8-year-old boy. You think of any 8-year-old boy to lift them up. It's just so easy, of course, isn't it? I mean, you just got to play football with them. Yeah. Oh, you're excellent at that. You're amazing at that. I never knew you were that good at football. You got them straight away. It's easy. They're children. They're vulnerable. They're always looking for praise and attention. That's their nature. So I was no different. Possibly the divorce, the separation of my parents also had made things feel very unstable.
There was a gap.
Right.
It's a gap for attention. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Now, how does it go from that to the other side of what we were doing, which was, I mean, we were doing things completely naked and I wasn't questioning a thing. How do you go from there to there? Must have been a progressive stage by stage thing. Maybe, I often think maybe he would do it, he'd just test the boundaries a little bit by little bit. So maybe we used to play the computer together. It was Mega Drive back in those days. And I remember it was Sonic 2. It was the first time, or that I remember, that you could split the screen and you had a screen each on the game. And like that was like revolutionary at that point. So we'd play together. So maybe when we were playing, he'd just get closer. Just get closer and make that feel normal for me. Maybe a little touch on the leg. Maybe a little hug. I really don't know. But the things that we were doing I was okay with.
Can you go into it?
Yeah, so let's say the touch was all right. The kissing felt weird. It was tongues. He used to scratch my face because he had a beard. But it felt okay. It's quite an emotional connection, kissing, isn't it? And just for everyone listening, that is wild to hear. Like, it's so wild. You think of a 35-year-old man and an 8-year-old boy kissing, but there is more context I need to give people who are feeling so shocked with that. And that is the era that we were in. Let me explain a little bit more. It was 1993, right? Kids had no clue about what they have a clue about today. First of all, the education system was completely different, right? So primary schools were not teaching about body safety, online. Obviously, there was no online situation in 1993, but we didn't know about private areas, no-go zones.
Yeah,
we didn't know anything. Nothing sexual had entered our. The music lyrics weren't like they are today. The gaming wasn't like it is today. Sonic 2 versus GTA, completely different games, right? A pop song compared to a Nicki Minaj song. Right? We weren't exposed back in the 90s. We weren't exposed to anything sexual. So we didn't have any life experience or maturity around those concepts, right? Because children were kept a lot safer in this respect back in those days compared to what they are now. They're exposed to so much that we don't even know about coming up on home feeds and algorithms throwing and things and messages exchanging in WhatsApps. Like, it's crazy now. So I had no clue what we were doing was something I needed to say about. Now, things went on to fondling of the genitals. Now, him fondling genitals to me, at that time, I don't remember it feeling weird, but it would have been giving my body a nice sensation.
Yeah.
Like, it's a penis.
Yeah.
And it's a human.
It's sensitive.
It's a sensitive part of your body. There's no puberty. I haven't been through puberty, obviously, by this point.
Yeah.
So I haven't got the natural curiosity or interest in arousal that the hormones would have given my body. But still, it's a sensitive area that when it's tickled, it's okay.
Yeah, of course.
And maybe he had fed me a narrative. Obviously, I don't remember the narrative that he fed me, but maybe he said, "Oh, this is what the older boys do. Like, we're so grown up for doing this." Like, who knows? Maybe there was a threat. Don't tell anybody that we're doing this because your dad's going to get in big trouble. Or I won't be able to look after you anymore. And then who's going to look after you?
It's manipulation.
Who knows? Yeah. It's manipulation of some sort.
Yeah.
It could have been forceful, violent threats, or it could have been gentle, progressive coercion.
Yeah.
But he continued to push me. There was oral sex involved. Now, this is where something happens where we're just like, there was an opportunity there for me to say something, because I remember he started pushing me to do it to him. And I didn't like that. That made me feel a bit uncomfortable.
Of course.
In fact, that made me feel a bit gross. Like, that was disgusting. Why would he want me to do that? Like, I couldn't understand what that was. And there was nothing. I didn't have any education, and nobody had. There was no conversations being had back in those days for me to identify. That feeling, that uncomfortable feeling in my stomach, that means there must be something wrong here. I need to tell someone about it. I had no knowledge about these things. That's why the education we're giving children and the conversations we're having in homes today is vital. And things continued. He'd just keep pushing. And there was one time where he tried to put his finger in my anus and it hurt. And he must have noticed that it hurt. And he never did it again. Now, did I think, oh, he's like cares for me? I told him not to do that. Or he noticed that I didn't like that and he never did it again. I don't know. I really don't know. You don't remember much from 8 years old.
And so when you're describing these events, give me context. Was it he was coming over weekly and every time he would do it and there was a system, okay, Dad's gone now, let's start? Or was it he would just take his opportunity when he knew you were happy? How did that manifest? Or you don't remember?
So I could direct short videos of the moments.
Really?
Yeah. So there's many more alongside what I described. I knew all his favourite things that he liked doing. And I remember we had some going on in the spare room where he was staying if he stayed overnight, some happening in the lounge, some happening in the sitting room area. And I could recreate those. They'd probably be about 2 minutes long, right? But I don't remember us taking our clothes off.
Right.
I don't remember how we got there. I don't remember any dialogue. I just remember the moments because maybe that's what's imprinted on my brain. But the setup, what we did afterwards, when did it finish? Did he ejaculate? Which I remember him ejaculating a few times, but was there always ejaculation or like, I don't, you just don't remember those things. I mean, look, to put that into context, what do you really remember when you were in year 4?
That's what I'm saying. You don't.
You may not even remember what teacher you had, and you had that teacher all year. Right.
I think what you're remembering makes sense because is the moments which had big impact you remember, but everything around it you don't. I have memories of when I was younger being bullied, and I remember the moments where something really dramatic would happen, where it really hurt, or something happened that it would create an emotion in me, which was really heavy. I remember that. Can I remember how I got into it? What happened afterwards? No. I just remember that. And that still sits with me. I'm 44.
Yeah.
And I don't know how old I was. Primary school, secondary school, right? So I totally get it.
Yeah.
I totally get it. So this would all happen and your dad was just at work.
My dad was being a dad. Like, he was at work.
No, I mean, in just at work in a positive. He was earning for the family.
Yeah.
And he had no idea, obviously no idea.
Yeah, no idea. Had no clue at all. He never walked in on us. Was he in the house when we were doing it? I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But he never came home early and we were doing things. I never said anything, ever. I didn't show any signs. Even looking back at it now, look, I've done some digging. And I have some friends, quite a few friends actually from primary school that I'm still friends with now. And I have spoken to the parents of those friends and said, like, now you know what happened. When you look back at 8-year-old Jeremy, with hindsight, could you see I was showing any signs? And they all say, we've even been asking ourselves those questions now we know what happened to you. But look, there was nothing to see. Children keep secrets brilliantly. They're masters at it. You ask a child 100 times, tell me what happened at school today. Like, you won't get an answer out of them.
Yeah.
You won't get an answer out of them.
But it just shows how he approached you and how he twisted stuff to make you feel like this is fine. No, there's nothing wrong with it. And then you're 8 years old. You're thinking, all right, well, that's normal. So they're probably doing it at home. My mates probably, same thing's happening to them. Like,
I haven't even got the maturity at 8 years old to even analyze what's happening. Yeah. Are others doing this? Is this normal? Like, you don't even have the maturity to analyze what's going on. You're not being reflective in your life. I don't think at 8 years old you're going to bed thinking, oh, that was a good day. That wasn't a good day. You're just in the moments. It's only when you grow up older that you start reflecting. Oh, maybe I shouldn't have behaved like that. I wish that other person spoke up to me like this. Like, you don't do that at that primary school age.
Yeah. Do you remember those moments with you creating a connection with this man? Do you feel you had a connection with him because of what you were sharing?
I don't remember. The only things I remember is the computer. Pretty sure there was a football. And I remember he bought me a Christmas present once, which was a TLC album, which I wasn't allowed to have.
Right.
So there's a bit of a, a usual stereotypical part of the grooming process that we hear. So I must have been over the moon that he bought me this. Was that before the abuse was happening? Was that him gearing me up, or was that during? I just don't know.
So this went on for how long?
So I am estimating it's approximately a year. Now, I think I should at this moment tell you why I can't find out these because otherwise I'm going to keep saying, I'll tell you later why it is I can't find any of the information. To 2022, my father passed. He had a heart attack while he was eating his dinner, right? I told him much later in life about what happened, and the reason why I told him, because I never wanted to let him know what happened.
Yeah.
Any fathers that are listening to this are going to be putting themselves in his position, and he spiraled out of control. Like he had many troubles on his plate anyway, but I feel like now that I'm a father and feel the pain that if my son told me this 20 years later, it was happening under my nose. It was from the guy that I trusted to bring him into my own home, was doing this to my son. I don't know how I would cope with that. And he didn't. He put on a brave face, but internally, no. He had a heart attack. He was drinking heavily, huge, severe depression. And I'll never be able to know this for sure, but I believe that the abuse that was going on was a main factor of him not being around today.
Well, finding out about the abuse.
Yeah, finding out about the abuse. Yeah. And I mean, he would have just blamed himself.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a father, single father as well. And if I trusted someone to take care of my daughter and I found out
they were doing things, I mean,
and it's horrible to take, it wasn't his fault at all, but he's going to he has to take ownership. I trusted this man. And look, it's a very, very difficult and heavy weight to carry.
So the information of like, when was he coming around? When was he not? How often did he used to stay around? They are all questions that he knew, but he's no longer with us. So I can't find out the answers to those questions. So it will always be a mystery unless I can get this man to admit what he did and speak about it, and we can get the details of him.
Can you find this man? Have you found this man?
It was a long process of reporting him to the police when I was 32. The police not being able to do anything because there's no evidence. And that definitely makes people angry. But look, there's no evidence. There's no recordings, there's no messages, there's no nothing. You can't start putting people in prison because somebody said something happened 20 years ago. We would never want that to be the system. And when the police came back to me and said, we can't do anything about this, that's when we had to get my dad involved. So that's when I told him, because he could give more evidence. So there are statements. There's a statement from my dad and there's a statement from this man who did it. That's with the police, and possibly the answers that I need to solve the mysteries of my story are there. But I've tried to apply to see these statements, but I can't get hold of them because of GDPR and various other barriers. And when the police told me that they couldn't do anything about it, how did I feel with that? I felt lost. Because me prosecuting the man that did this wasn't just about getting justice and making sure that he knows what he did and he pays a price, some kind of price. That's probably a terrible way of explaining it. It won't change anything. Right? It doesn't change what happened, but to have him his case on file with a guilty verdict also puts him on a register so that he can be monitored for as long as the courts would decide. So that's a very beneficial thing because he will be online. He will be possibly in contact with other children.
Yeah.
And so that safeguards.
You will
children.
stop him to doing it to anyone else.
Right. Or it will maximize, it will increase the chances that he can't. Yeah. That's also was one of my goals with the prosecution attempt. It's not just about getting some kind of feeling of satisfaction that this person will spend some time in prison, which he may not have even got a prison sentence. It's about prevention for the future generations. And so that whole police process was kind of messy emotionally. I only ever spoke to my dad, unfortunately, about it on the day I told him and the day he needed to give a statement. I wish I spoke to him about it a bit more. I would run that completely different now if I was to have told him now to how I did back then. But I was going through my own things at that point. And yeah, that was it. I mean,
how did your dad respond when you told him? Because, people are going to say you're 8 years old. How do you know you weren't imagining it? How do you? Yeah. It's a valid question, right?
It's a valid question.
And what did he say?
Yeah, it's a valid question. That is an important point as well. Yeah. And that is actually one of the reasons I believe lots of people don't come forward when it's primary school ages, because they're questioning themselves of, is this all in my head? That's a valid point. Yeah. But you've got to go with, well, personally for me, it would be too much of an imagination for me to have conjured up all of these things that are so vulnerable in nature as well. And for me to have gone through a stage of finally breaking the silence around this, which we can get into. If my brain had imagined it all, that wouldn't have been so challenging for me. So my dad's response, oh my goodness. I drove to his house, right, to do this face-to-face. I knocked on the door, told him I was coming around. I knocked on the door and bless him. He used to come to the door and open the door with just such a smile on his face. I was 32. We were both men. Right? He used to love sitting at the kitchen table. He'd become quite a little bit lonely, I think. And he had had this busy, intense career. He brought up children. He was engaged in life. And as soon as he retired, he felt empty. Yeah. That is a common story.
Yeah, of course.
That is a common story.
Yeah.
I wonder if retirement is actually the correct thing for us to do as human beings. Just tailoring off, I think, is a better technique. But he stopped immediately. So he used to love just sitting and chatting, right? He'd done his work, he'd raised his kids, he'd finished his career, and we used to just chat about different things going on in our lives. And my heart was racing. It really was. And I smile and I hug him. And we sit down at the kitchen table, the same table that he passed away on, in the same seat. And I just went straight in. And I said, Dad, I am just about to tell you the most difficult thing you have ever heard. And he could feel this was a moment, and his brain is probably scrambling around to think about what this could be. And he could have guessed 1,000 times. He would have never got anywhere near this answer. And I said, you remember X, who used to come around our house and help us out? He was actually sexually abusing me. And he pulled this facial expression that I'd never seen on him before. And he put his head in his hands and started rocking back and forth uncontrollably. And he let out this scream of what I would describe as pain.
What did that sound like to you?
Oh, it's devastating. It's devastating. Seeing your dad completely shattered. And I decided to stay at his that night, and I heard him cry hard.
Do you think, because the way you described it, he immediately screamed. Do you think he may have thought there was something dodgy about this guy?
Yeah, interesting.
Because was there a moment where he would say, no, come on, don't lie. You joking?
Yeah.
Is this a trick?
Yeah.
Because if he went to that, I'm kind of not, my mind's kept saying he probably thought there was something messed up about this dude. And maybe what he had thought, maybe it wasn't exactly that. Maybe he just didn't trust him. Maybe he thought he was a bit of a sleaze.
Yeah.
Now
Maybe.
Now that's maybe the truth has come out that he's suppressing, maybe in a way.
Yeah, possibly. After the years, maybe that this man stopped coming around. Maybe 10 years later, 20 years later, when he was getting to when my dad was getting into older age, and I believe every decade in life is slightly different. Your brain is slightly different. The way you look at life is slightly different. And when you're at retirement age, maybe I think this wouldn't be too far off. You start reflecting more on all the decisions you made, and possibly he was thinking, "Oh, that guy wasn't quite right," or maybe this guy had my dad hook, line, and sinker too. Somebody approached me after one of my events once and said to me, "I'm so sorry if I'm out of line saying this, but he groomed your dad before he groomed you."
I agree. I was thinking the same thing. He saw an opportunity.
Your dad was the first victim.
Yeah, he saw an opportunity.
Yeah, your dad was the first victim.
Because for someone to do that to a child means that
not right in the head, yeah.
There's something different about them, right?
Yeah.
And they look for these opportunities.
Yeah.
I agree with that person.
And back in those days before the internet, to get to a child, you needed to get past their parents and their family and get the child on their own. Now it's different. Now all children have a tablet or phone in the palm of their hand, and that means that adults have direct access to them on their own immediately through social media or gaming apps. So it used to be very different, but he managed to get through those barriers by creating victims before he got to his final victim, which was me. Do I believe that my dad knew about any of this? No, I don't. I think the scream of pain was the pain of his world falling apart in that very moment. He would have felt like he didn't protect his son. And I don't think he stopped thinking about it from that moment on.
Yeah. It's heavy. Because that's our instinct as fathers. Your son's one.
Protection, yeah.
Protection. Number one thing, got to keep them safe, emotionally safe, physically safe, all that kind of stuff.
Now, I have a sister as well, 2 years above me, and she must have been in the house when things were going on.
Oh, interesting.
And I was always, when I started really thinking about this a lot, I was always really worried that he'd done it to her too.
Had he?
No. And when I finally told my sister, her reaction was the same scream of pain. It was the same reaction. And thankfully, the positive to come out of the conversation was that she said, "Yeah, it wasn't me too." I was so relieved. She gave statements to the police.
Does she remember him?
Yeah.
Does she have that same opinion that there was something?
Well, she says to me, because I started releasing posts on social media about my story in the early days. That's what I would talk about, my story predominantly. And I would paint it as he was like my mate. And she was like, "No, it weren't like that. He was like quite a nerd, quite a lonely nerd. Quite like awkward, and maybe my brain has painted him in a different light."
Yeah.
Or we were 2 years apart, so I was 8, she was 10. We're completely different in development. Plus the fact she's female and I'm male,
so
which
she's
seeing it completely differently. We just wonder. That's all we can do. We just wonder. But thank goodness. He didn't go for her too. Maybe boys was his preference for whatever reason.
I'm sure you've thought this, your whole lifetime, that if you were sat opposite him, what would you ask him?
If I could ask him any questions, they would be, what was it you were getting out of the interaction? What was it that was arousing you? Like, I remember when we talk about arousal, obviously physically he was aroused. He had an erection. But when I look back and I think about like how he was behaving, it was like he was like possessed. He was so into it. Like he was like fully engrossed in what we were doing. And so I want to understand what that was all about.
Do the work that you do now. Have you tried to study the minds of these people? Because if we understand how they work, we can try to put safeguards in to make sure they don't come into our lives. If that makes sense?
Yeah.
What is the psyche of someone like this?
It's varied.
Right.
It's varied. There is so many different levels and stages. They could be older. They could be in their 60s and 70s. They could be in their 20s, right? We also now see the statistics rising due to the police reports of the percentage of crimes that have a sexual context committed by teenagers. So there's a whole range, but one of the most common things we see is the power dynamic. And there's power dynamics in all consensual relationships. We understand how they work. All the, let's say, common fantasies, they're all got a power dynamic. But this power dynamic these people are choosing is an innocent child who can't defend themselves with the situation you're bringing to their lives. That's where the power dynamic is. I do broach the topic of offenders on my platforms every now and again. And I would like to do it more, but it causes such a knee-jerk reaction from the audience that it reaches that I get a lot of hate. But if we think about it logically, until we understand these people, why they're doing it, we can't properly safeguard our young people. And safeguarding our young people is the most important job that we have. But you can't save them all.
You can't. When I think of people who do stuff like that, things that we wouldn't even want to imagine, usually when you trace their journey back, there's pain, there's stuff that they've suffered. Not in all cases, like you said, it's very varied. But there is, I was treated badly. I haven't healed, but I will now become.
I will take the power back.
I will take the power back. And it ends up being someone else becomes the victim.
It's a common theme that we see people who have had childhoods where they have been neglected or abused in some way, physical abuse, emotional abuse, and they felt powerless in those situations. And then they grow into adults and they want to take a certain level of power back. But it's not just that. And we've got to be very careful with that because lots of people throw the statement around of most people that sexually abuse children have been abused themselves. That's a real worry. I'll tell you who it's a real worry for, people who have been sexually abused.
Of course.
Because then they're paranoid that everybody thinks that they're not safe around their children. But not just that, it's terrible messaging for young boys who have been sexually abused, thinking they're going to turn into somebody that will do that. But also it's a terrible message for parents who have got teenager boys who have offended, teenage boys who have been sexually abused. They think they're going to turn into someone like that. So we need to be very careful. But we also have seen a lot of men being pulled down rabbit holes on pornography. So the teen category is the most viewed category on pornography websites.
Really?
But that's legal. Yeah, it's legal. It's not illegal because it's 18 and 19. That's the teen category. I mean, everybody knows about the teen category, but there's a variance in the teen category, right? Some models look really, really young.
When I was thinking teen, I was thinking...
No. It's all 18 and 19 year olds. But directors are blurring the lines, and there's loopholes there, isn't there? Because if you've got a young 18-year-old model actor and they look really young, so now they're looking 16, now they're looking 15, and they're dressed in that way, and the scene is in a bedroom with all bold colours and there's a teddy bear on the bed, that is on Pornhub. And these men are getting pulled. These men are susceptible to that thrill of the power dynamic, are getting pulled down these rabbit holes, and then they end up on the dark web. So you've got sex offenders of children being created at all different stages. It's not just one dynamic.
Yeah. I saw in a clip that you put on your Instagram where you showed the Britney Spears video.
Yes.
And you showed all these clips saying, like with schoolgirls and stuff.
Yeah.
You're saying, why are these platforms allowing this stuff to be shared?
Yeah.
Like, what are you polluting the minds of some of these susceptible people with?
Yeah.
There is responsibility on their end.
Right. And setting a norm. So when you think about the Britney Spears boom, that's madness. I mean, the song that made her famous, they're in college outfits, school outfits, in locker rooms, dancing in classrooms. Yeah. I mean, the opening scene is her in a class, right? With a pencil. I think she's like thinking in the air. And you would have thought that was the old days. Okay. Was there uproar about that back in those days? I don't know, because I was very young. Possibly there was, possibly there wasn't, but it was allowed. And then you would think, oh, it's 2025 now. We've changed, but we haven't, because we see the rise of Bonnie Blue, for example, and she's just done a Channel 4 documentary called 1,000 Men and Me. And in that, she has produced a film of a schoolgirl scene, and they're in a school. It's all actors, obviously. They're all over 18, and they're playing into that fantasy because that fantasy is alive and kicking. So we have big problems. Creating norms in our society that we're just not getting hold of.
But what should people do about that?
More kickback, more outrage, holding these £1 million companies accountable, but they are profit driven, and shock tactics, shocking videos that cause controversy are the ones that go viral.
The thing that's really sad with this is that as technology advances and young boys lose their way, losing confidence, lack of identity, lack of purpose, they have become isolated, now finding pleasure in digital devices, in videos and content like you're spoken about, and starting to think this is how it should be, or this gives me satisfaction, so maybe I can try to do this in some way in real life. And so really, I think on top of what you said about holding these people accountable is creating spaces and really allowing these young men to grow into well-rounded good men by creating spaces for them and not allowing them to be isolated and alone. Good role models, come together. Don't sit at home alone. Let's go and play football in the park like we used to when you were young. Like, I used to come home, drop my bag off, get my bike. I was outside my mates until dinner time. I had no moment where I was alone. I've got no memories of young being alone. It's me, my brother, my mates. Never lonely, never depressed. I had my friends. That is gone.
I think role models is a good thing as well. Like that's one of the problems with the internet is everybody's got a voice. It's a good thing, but it's also a bad thing. And you get people rise to fame who are just controversial. They shouldn't really rise to fame, but we can't suppress it because we're not running the algorithms. We don't choose what the algorithms do. But to be a good role model, I just think is perfect for these young men. This is what they need. It's what they need. When I go into schools and deliver my sessions to teenagers, I talk about my journey speaking out for the first time. And you see everyone's attention start to really gravitate to that part of the story. Because I explain about the abuse finishing around 9 years old, me not really thinking about that it had finished. Like I never thought, oh my goodness, that stopped. I didn't think that. I believe he qualified as a nurse and moved away. The police statements would give me that information if one day I can get hold of them. And then I kept the secret well hidden.
Yeah. And you said that people didn't know anything because you were normal.
Yeah. In fact, I was ambitious. I was aspiring. I was started doing really well at school. I was so great with my friends. Like we were also getting up to mischief from just being boys. And I left school, left college, got an apprenticeship, aerospace engineering, started working on aircraft. That kept me focused, kept me driven. It was a great company I was working for. Started designing aircraft parts, started earning great money, started working on different contracts around the world. And so from the outside, this is a guy that's flourishing.
But you were also on the inside, you were okay, you weren't living in depression, right? You were, maybe part of you, like you said, you hadn't thought of it until you started having flashbacks.
Well, my brain had cleverly, and this is something someone explained to me, our brains are so clever.
Yeah.
When, in the majority of cases, when something happens to you when you're a child, we're talking prepubescent ages, you don't have any type of maturity or life experience to deal with that thing. So your brain will put that situation in a box, shut the box and lock it up, bury it deep underground. And then as you start getting older, maybe the box starts coming out of the ground and showing you a little bit. And I think that I had little moments where I remembered what had happened. So I believe when I started getting with girls, myself, as a young teenager, there must have been something in my brain that was like, you've been here before.
So you were having flashbacks. Did you believe them straight away? Did you think they were dreams, or did they immediately feel like, no, this is real?
Well, you think about my first kiss, right? Which was in the park, right? I still remember it. Everyone remembers it. Maybe unconsciously there was something that was like, oh, this isn't your first time. I'm 11 or 12 at that age. Like you just don't have any maturity to think about that or analyze that. But maybe something in the back of my brain was doing that. Then when I turn 15, maybe something happens, maybe something in conversation, someone throws out a pedo joke or something like that. And I'm like, makes me feel uncomfortable. Again, I'm 15. Then at 18, maybe something happens. Then I remember very well, there is an old school film called Sleepers. Like it's an old film. And it's about boys in a boarding school being sexually abused. It's quite an intense film. And I remember it starting, and I was around a mate's house, and it's starting and made me feel so uncomfortable. I must have made some excuse up and to get out of there. Oh, I forgot I needed to do something at home. My mates aren't going to think that's suspicious. I must have just played it really well. But then I must have got home and been like my brain's just like dissipated that. Like it put me off balance for a moment. But then like, look, come on, like, oh, I've got this amazing life. But at 25, that's when things changed. That's when if I really think about how this unplayed, I was working in Abu Dhabi. I was running some aircraft, major modifications there. Wow, it was an incredible placement. I'd go there my company would send me there every month or so, stay there for 10 days. And it was in the hotel room. This is like the moment I remember it really coming back to me. It was in the hotel room. And had I seen someone that looked like him? Abu Dhabi, around this kind of shade of skin that you've got, beard, flowing hair, lots of people with that kind of look at that time. I remember that's kind of what I remember, and maybe I've seen someone that looked like him, but maybe that coincided with me being 25. They say that you're more or less your brain is developed at that age. Maybe my box was ready to be looked at because I was ready to look at it. Who knows? But everything had come at like once. And I remember thinking, oh, I can't believe that happened.
How did that make you feel?
Shocked. Because that was the first time I'd accepted it. That's the first time I allowed it to be. It's the first time I allowed my brain to actually think about it. And then like old school where you used to show people this is even before my time, you used to show people your holiday snaps and used to, on the projector thing. It was like, that was going, all these flashbacks, all these things we used to do, all the places I was at, all the feelings that I had were like just coming at once. feel like I was angry too, because I maybe knew, I say maybe because maybe my unconscious knew this is here now. This is here.
You got to deal with it now.
And you're going to have to do something about this. This isn't a passing phase. I tried to ignore it. What am I supposed to do with this? Yeah. You think of something that you've never told anyone before that's personal to you, right? Maybe something you've done someone wrong before in the past, or you do something that you're not that proud. You've done something you're not that proud of. Maybe recently, maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago. Maybe you do something about you that's a bit embarrassing that nobody knows. You've got a little trait about you or a little habit that's like a bit embarrassing. Think about telling someone that thing, right? That nobody knows, right? That's not easy as an adult, yeah? And I've just tried to pick something that's a bit the embarrassing thing or the thing you're not that proud of, something a bit trivial. Now think about this. This is going to turn things different. When you say this is going to turn things different. So I wasn't even thinking about saying it. I just kept ignoring it. But it just kept coming and coming and coming and coming. Focus on my career. 2 years. Then I started having night terrors. So the thing had escalated.
What did they manifest as? What was it?
Me in my bed, him coming through the door, and me being paralyzed. And me trying, I recognize it's a dream, and I'm shouting and I'm shouting and I'm shouting, but I'm actually shouting in real life. And then I wake myself up. And I'm so relieved that it's a dream. And it was only really when I was sharing the bed with someone that I realised I was shouting out in real life.
So this could have been happening.
This could have been happening before.
Yeah.
That's when I knew, you're in a bad place now.
Did that affect you being intimate with your partner? Because I'm sure now you felt violated. Someone had touched me first.
Yeah.
Was there that?
I think it's really interesting to start thinking about how what happened affected my sexual interactions. Yeah. I worked through my 20s in very dominant, submissive, consensual, obviously, relationships. So I seemed to find or get with people who loved playing the submissive role.
Right.
And I loved having the dominant role. Now, that could be a number of things, right? That could be a number of things. That could have been influenced by so many variables. It could also have just been my temperament, right? But I think we can also link it back to, we wouldn't be too far off the mark if we linked it back to what happened, where he had the power over me and it was an overpowering power. And as a young 20-year-old, maybe my brain was trying to process that by being in the reverse position.
Unconsciously, you were
Yeah.
Which is
incredible. It was thrilling and it was a lot of fun. Right? It was a lot of fun, and we had so much fun as young people doing those things. Like, I just think about the people I was involved in, like long-term friends with benefit type arrangements. But you can see, like, possibly that it had some kind of effect there. So maybe it was affecting me in a sexual way. But the night terror was such a turning point for me because I knew I needed to do something different.
Is that when you quit your job?
So no, the quitting of the job came a little bit later. The first thing I did was decided to tell a friend about what happened. That was cool. I must have tried so many times.
It's a heavy conversation.
Oh, yeah. And when you think, why is it a heavy conversation? I think one of the first things is like, how am I even going to say it?
Was it a man or a woman?
Yeah, it was one of my best mates I told.
Okay.
27. I tried with loads of other mates, but I think trying was me just getting closer and closer to actually doing it.
What did you feel? Shame?
I think it's fear of the unknown.
Their response?
Of just saying it. Like just actually saying the words, it's going to be so real.
Because now it's real.
Yeah.
Now it's not just in your mind.
And now someone knows about it. Now, even if I decide I'm not going to do it anymore with that, that person will always know. And this isn't like I don't know, I broke something when I was younger and I never told anyone about it and I blamed someone else. You know, this is like something so serious.
But did it make you feel a little bit lighter that you're sharing?
Oh my God, when I told him, like, it was like, cool, if I can ever make a film out of this, that'll be such a scene. Like, great music, just the showing the character just getting lighter and lighter as they say more words, you know, and just feeling empowered and feeling like it's okay. And honestly, like, my mate gave me such an incredible response. Like, he just listened and just supported me. I mean, I'd known him since just before it was actually going on. But like, look, he is going through his own shit at that moment, because he's thinking, which we've discussed it many times, like, he's thinking, how have I missed all of this?
Yeah.
How did I not notice? Did I not ask the right questions? Like, that's what his brain's doing. His brain is obviously thinking, this is so terrible and so sad. Like, I am so sorry, mate.
It's a good friend.
Oh, he would never realise how pivotal that moment was. Because if I had bad response, right, even if he had said to me, which, by the way, anyone that's listening that ever gets a disclosure, never say, are you sure?
Yeah.
That's not the first response they need.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, especially as a kid or a teenager, right? Safeguarding is taught in schools and teachers are told, don't question. That's not your place right in that moment. Your place is just to listen and just respond like a human being. But if he had said, you know, if he'd just blown it all away, that probably would have been very different, because the like confidence it gave me, like, my life had this energy about it.
Because if you felt judged and if you felt like he was
not taking it
seriously, then it could have backfired for you.
Well, maybe I wouldn't have got the feelings of confidence that I got.
Yeah.
Maybe it wouldn't have been so empowering. Possibly also, it would have inspired me to tell another person. Also, it could have gone either way. But it was perfect. It was perfect. And then I felt like that was dealt with. I felt like the night terror is going to stop. We've dealt with that. That's excellent. I trust him with my life. He's not going to tell anyone else. We're good. Then I reckon like a year later, things start happening again. The odd night terror. I told another mate. Then I told another mate. Then I told another mate. Then I told all my mates. Then I told their girlfriends. Then I told their wives. So telling their girlfriends and wives at the time, that was like moving out of that circle. We're talking about like over a 3-year period. We're not talking, this didn't happen over months. And with each time I spoke, instead of me sitting down and being like, just like heart racing, mate, I've got something to tell you. Like, this is going to be a lot. After a little while, with the girlfriends and the wives, for example, I'd had discussions with my close mates by that point. It was more like I sat down and I'd say the name of the person. I'd say, look, I've got something to tell you, right? This is going to be mental, right? But I feel like you need to know because, you know, you've got kids too and I want to get this story out there. Like, it was a different approach because confidence was growing. Yeah. The fear had dissolved away. Yeah. The confidence was eating the fear, right? It was dissolved. The fear, there was fear, no more fear around this.
You're owning it.
Yeah, you're owning it. You're owning the story. You're owning the story. In fact, you're holding it high up. You're holding it high in victory because it's no longer got you. You're releasing those shackles. So then my career is going really well at this point. I'm got this idea of working in Formula One. I got that idea because somebody who I worked with at the aerospace company had gone there, McLaren Mercedes. Lewis Hamilton used to drive for them.
Yeah.
It's like, that's unreal. Imagine being on that team, involved in the race, designing the race car. For any engineering people, aeroplane works very similar to Formula One cars. They actually share a lot of technology, aerodynamics, et cetera, et cetera. So I want that. So through all this telling people more and more and more over that 5 years, 27 to 32, I started going on a mission with my career. I worked at Jaguar Land Rover. I learned about cars there, working with quite good engineers. I then moved to McLaren supercars on a limited edition vehicle called Speedtail, only 106 made, 2 million each.
Yeah.
Industry breaking. They raced it against a fighter jet on top gear. That was a moment for me. I was designing carbon fiber parts, crash structure, hybrid system, working with the best engineers, feeling like I'm one step away from this dream of Formula One. I start getting the odd interview for a Formula One team, and I don't get the job because I'm not quite there. And then at the moment, I feel like I got this now. The project at Speedtail project had finished. I was earning great money. I told all my mates, their girlfriends and wives knew. I had loads of discussions about it, like firing on all cylinders, right? Then through those years, little bit by little bit, I start getting interested in what's going on out there. Who else has gone through this? I had no clue. I hadn't done any searching. I wasn't following anybody on social media that spoke about this type of thing. So I just started doing a little research, like, you know, and I'm even worried about what to type in my Google box, you know, like sexual abuse of children or like, what do I even search? Like, I was a bit worried about that. But I start going for it and, oh my God, you end up finding Facebook pages, Instagram accounts, like the survivor community. And then I realized, wow, this is happening to so many people. I start then researching government statistics. And one of them that was released in 2023 is that 5 out of every 100 boys on average, 15 out of every 100 girls on average will go through some form of abuse or exploitation in person or online before they turn 16. Even sexual DMs, harassed online, harassed in the street, forced interaction, coerced into doing things of a sexual context before they're 16. So I started seeing all of this, and the engineering career just started, the value of it started reducing. My drive towards it started reducing because I started getting more interested in this thing. That whole process is empowering. You know, so many people are always asking me like, oh, I do this full time now, right? Speaking about this topic, speaking in schools, people are always like, how do you take care of yourself? Like, you're dealing with this horrific conversation all the time. And for me, it's like the whole thing is empowerment.
Yeah.
The whole thing, we're just driving towards empowerment.
You're healing through the work.
Confidence, yes. It's cathartic.
Yeah.
It's cathartic. And that whole process was cathartic until I decided to, at the end of the Speedtail project, I'm not going to take on another contract. I'm going to try and do something about this.
Do you think deep down inside, your mind and your soul wanted to do more? It realized that I have to create change? Or do you think there must have been a moment where something said to you, no, I'm actually destined to do more than this?
Okay, I think it was me reflecting on how fortunate my journey had been.
Interesting.
Happened when I was a child. I packed it away securely, quite successfully. I continued my life. Yes, it would have had an undercurrent in my personality traits and how I evolved and developed as a young child into my teenage years, but mostly we were good. Great career, great friends, great life. Highly skilled, trained engineer. I know how to work a project. I know how to problem solve. I know how to brainstorm ideas. So I had this skill set as well. So maybe I could try to solve this problem. But I'd also, in my research, come across a story from an 80-year-old woman in like a chat group. She wrote that she never told anybody what happened to her. And she believes that it affected her life in so many different ways. She mentioned that she came from an era where you could not speak about this even if you wanted to. And even if you did, it wasn't received.
What happens to someone when they don't ever tell anyone about it?
Well, what happens to anybody when they suppress anything traumatic that happened to them? I would say very rarely it's driving a good result.
Mm.
And I am no psychologist, but I think we all kind of can come to that conclusion.
Yep.
And that's what must have happened to her. And she felt trapped in her era. She felt trapped by her era.
I had this interaction at an event. I was talking about men's mental health. There were women in the crowd, mixed age. I finished the event. People came up to me. Then this old Indian woman came up to me. She said, Naroop, she goes, son, you're a very clever man. I said, thank you, auntie. I'd call her auntie, as we do. She goes, son, bad things have happened to me when I was young. All my family say, just forget it. Yeah. Forget it. Don't think about it. She goes, but I can't stop thinking about it. Son, I can't stop thinking, what shall I do? And I looked at her and I think, this is like my grandma's age. She's dealing with it from young. Everyone's saying, forget about it. I can't forget about it. And what does she probably need to do? Tell people about it.
Yeah, speak to someone.
And I could see it. Dude, when she was looking at me, the hope that she was wishing I could give her, the help that she was longing for. Like I use this word loosely, but a savior, someone to release everything that she had felt. Yeah. I said, auntie, tell someone.
Yep.
Real deal, it sat with me for so long. Because how many other aunties, brown, whatever age, men, women, are living with that.
Yeah.
And people around them, forget about it. Don't tell no one.
And many will take it to their grave.
Yeah.
Various situations that have happened to them. Is the advice always speak out? Maybe that's not the correct decision for everyone at that time. Maybe in 10 years' time it's good. I often think if someone came into my school when I was 15 and talked about this, like I go into schools, would I have been ready to speak out at that time? I don't know. How would that have changed things? I don't know.
You definitely wouldn't tell someone your own age at school.
I don't think so. Not as a young boy.
Because you know what they're going to do at that age.
Yeah. Not as a young boy. No. But maybe I would have told a teacher.
Yeah.
But it's the 80-year-old woman's story, like we just mentioned, that's just so hard hitting. When older people come up to me at my events, they're in their 70s, they're in their 80s, and they feel compelled to say something to me. They've never said anything before. It is so hard hitting. And I know this 8-year-old woman had gone through the same thing. So she comes from an era where you couldn't say something. I come from an era where you can. Social media, as a starter, has given everybody a voice. So I decided to sell everything that I had. I didn't have a lot, but I had good savings. I was being paid well, not spending the money. I thought I'm going to try something. So much to the despair of my friends and family, I leave McLaren to the side. I leave the Formula One dream to the side. Very coincidentally, as soon as I made this decision, like 2 or 3 more interviews come in on Formula One. But I feel like if we want to take it in like this interesting kind of film-like narrative, maybe that was my test. Are you serious about this? Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I thought, they're contracts, so they're just like 6-month contracts. I'll just do it. But I was like, no. This thing, remember, don't lose sight of the goal.
Definitely a test.
So I turned them down. Renault. Who else was it? I can't remember the others. And so my first port of call was to start speaking at open mic nights. Very coincidentally, maybe serendipity too. A couple of weeks before this, I've been to an open mic night. A spoken word open mic night. In Croydon.
Right.
What an amazing event.
But were topics like this discussed?
No.
Or? Okay.
The spoken word is actually quite hard-hitting stuff. Spoken word is so maybe not this topic, but people are like pouring their heart out.
It's deep.
It's deep. Yeah. It gets deep. I thought, this is amazing. So like you get 5 minutes on stage, you sign up at the door, you perform, and then everyone's really supportive. And so I'd seen this before, and I thought that's what I could do. So I start, because remember, I've got this pot of money in my bank. I'm not earning any money. I'm having to tell friends and family that I'm going to try and do something about this. And they're like, yeah, but what can you do with it? And I was like, I don't know, but I just believe that I can do something with this. They're like, but why don't you do this in the evenings and just continue your career? And I was like, no, I need to go all in. I've got this opportunity. I've got this pot of money. I then also, at that time, report to the police. And then that kicks that side of things off. We've already spoken about that. That kicks an investigation off. I tell my dad. I tell my mum too. I didn't mention about that.
Yeah.
After I tell my dad, I go and tell my mum. And the reason why is because I felt like they both need to know. They both give me the same reaction. I tell my sister, she gives the same reaction. I've told a load of people now. I start speaking at open mic nights, and let's talk a little bit about that, right? Because it's really interesting, and it's about a mission and like keeping sight of a goal and understanding that no matter what challenges it brings, as long as you believe and keep the goal true and real, all those challenges will just keep making you better to get to that final goal. Because I'm signing up to every open mic night I can find. I've all my close circle of connections know about what happened and what I'm trying to do, and everybody's jumping in. They're saying, look, I've got a friend in Birmingham. She was like, I've got a spare room. I'll give you the key. You can come and go as you please. I had a family member in Brighton, did the same thing. I had my mum over on the west of London, did the same thing. So I had like 6, 7 key rings of people where I could stay. And I'm just moving, trying to do all the open mic nights in the different places. I'm moving every 10 days to not outstay my welcome anywhere. And some of the open mic nights that I went to were like in busy pubs, busy cocktail bars in the centre of London. No one's really listening. It's mostly music and comedians. And I go up there and I start telling this story in the best way that I can. And I had open mic shut me down, cut my microphone. I had people in the audience shout at me. Wow. I had people leave, get up and leave.
What would you say?
It was too hard hitting for them.
And what would you say when you were on the mic? It must have been a rehearsed script?
Yeah, it was a rehearsed script that I'd change every time. Okay. Lots of open mics had themes. Right. So one could be inspiration, one could be regret, one could, different types of things. So I'd go there and I'd tailor my story to that. So it was helping me write my story again and again in the best way that I could. But if it was just a usual event in a pub where I'm like, I shouldn't really do this. I've sat in pubs before and been like, I should go home. I was like, no, keep going, because every time you're learning so much or how to handle an audience. And so I'd get up on stage and I'd be like, look, I've got something a little bit different for you. This is going to be a bit hard hitting. I hope everybody's ready for this. But I want to talk to you about something that happened when I was a child. And I'd go in. I started playing the audience a little bit, because I started realising that in certain environments, you need a bit more camaraderie. So I'd be like, who's up for hearing something a bit difficult today? Oh, no one, come on. I've got something to, so I'd start playing it like that. So it was really helping me upskill myself. The time when the audience started shouting at me, a man stood up. I was in Peckham, and it was like I was last on, people were drunk, and this man stood up and he said, get out of here. This is nighttime entertainment. You shouldn't be talking about that kind of thing. I can't believe you were put on. And then another member of the audience stood up and started shouting at this man. And it caused this massive, people were just going at each other, not physically, but verbally. And I remember thinking, it's not my responsibility to try to sort this out. So I put the microphone back on the stand and I picked up my bag and I left. I'd actually told the organizer what I was going to be speaking about that day. So I'd cleared it with the event. And when I left, I remember getting on the bus back to the place where I was staying. I was like, I've got to stop this. This ain't going nowhere. But then I started speaking to people and I'm like, look what you did. You caused a conversation that wasn't being had there before. But some nights were excellent, right? Some nights, the spoken word nights, mostly because they were set up for this type of things, chairs, they'd sold tickets, and it went really well. But I spoke at over 100 events. But
this is pre-social media?
No, because I was actually kicked off social media at that time.
Right.
And I was recording my open mic performances and uploading them. So if you go to my YouTube channel and you hit videos and you got oldest, because it's got a filter there, you'll start seeing these open mic nights that I put on. And then I started writing posts about my story.
Yeah.
Then the police investigation got called off. And then I would write posts about that. And then I started taking people on a journey. Then I started explaining about how I feel about the police prosecution attempt. Then I appealed it and I talked about going into the meeting with the police to appeal my case. Then I started talking about diving into various What's going on out there? How is this happening? What are the people that are doing this? Why are children not better protected? How are we going to safeguard schools better? So I started investigating this. But all of this, in this time, a year passed, 2 years passed, I had £60,000 in my bank. Every year I was spending about 15,000. And then the money was just going down. And there was no way of me like gaining any income. I just couldn't think of how am I going to make money out of this? And the whole thing was moving slowly. Because, you know, if I was talking about fitness,
yeah, of course,
or cooking, you know, if you do it right, you can make a following very, very quickly. But the Instagram, Facebook, TikTok even, they suppress my subject.
You said that they banned your stuff.
Yeah, they've banned posts before, they've pulled posts down before. They've given me strikes. YouTube's given me strikes, broken their community guidelines because I'm just talking about the subject.
What in a post like that would they say qualifies it being taken down?
The majority of posts that are taken down or demonetized on YouTube are always when I'm talking about my story.
So when you're describing certain acts?
Definitely.
Because that's a problem in of itself. If you can't share, then how do people see the goodness? Like the goodness of what you're trying to create?
Yeah. Because there's no, this is for education button.
Yeah.
Right? So if I talk about the story and I talk about specific acts, it will always get pulled down.
Right.
So I can't go there. So I have to suggest the act and not tell it. But even if you put sexual abuse, child sexual abuse in your post, they don't want to play around with that. So they just suppress the post.
Which is why a podcast is really important because you get to hear it.
Yeah, you get to hear it for its real time.
Yeah.
In real time.
That's hard, man. That's a hard time for you to go through.
It was hard. But as I mentioned, you keep the goal, you understand, you believe that something can be done. I was very confident with the skill set that I'd had in my engineering career. A lot of people are like, do you wish you did this 10 years earlier? I'm like, no, because my 15-year engineering career taught me everything that I needed to know about what I'm doing now, project engineering. Again, brainstorming ideas, selecting the correct ones, deciding on a direction for the project. I launched another platform alongside mine called Something to Say. Because I've explained the confidence I got through sharing my story, I wanted to give a space for others to do so too.
Which is something I'd like to talk to about.
Yeah.
Was that always a plan to launch Something to Say, or did that come as I don't want to say an afterthought, but something that you were inspired to do after doing the work? Or
it was on reflection of what I gained from it. And it was never an immediate thought. It's like, you know, the ideas came, the ideas developed. And the more I did the work, the more I was working on the internet, the more I saw social media. And I was inspired by some other platforms that are doing the same thing. I thought I'll launch my own. So I actually started showing people story on my own platform, my Jeremy Indica platform. And I thought, no, let's move it onto something different. That was launched in 2018. Now we shared hundreds of stories. We launched a YouTube channel off the back of it so people can share via video. It's also open to people who want to submit their artwork, their poems, their questions to the community. It's completely community driven. I don't create any posts for Something to Say. It's all submitted by the community.
All to do about sexual abuse?
All to do about sexual abuse in someone's childhood.
That's amazing.
It's an amazing platform. I'm so proud of it.
Yeah.
And I have a team of volunteers and one paid member who does 5.5 hours a week. We're trying to generate funds. We're just about to apply for CIC status, which is Community Interest Company, because we keep running out of money, right? We rely on people's donations and support to keep that platform running. People, understandably so, don't see the costs involved in running platforms. There's many costs. Producing content takes a team of people. Receiving the stories, formatting them, communicating with the person that submitted the story, receiving people's questions that they want to ask the community, keeping an eye on the comment section, designing the post, all of those things. So that is growing on its own, you know, because it's driven by the community, and I love that aspect of it. It's now separate to me.
Yeah.
My thing's different. It's all about showing. It's all about showing the best of what we can do as a society to get these young people protected. The open mic journey is interesting, and it's cool as well. Like to think about what I was doing, moving from house to house, living out of a bag.
I can see the hustle in that open mic night. And I think it's probably a journey you had to make just to build up the, I want to say the thick skin
Yeah, it's great.
to face abuse.
Yeah.
rejection, whatever it might be, the negative feelings, which I think are based probably around fear a lot of the time.
Yep.
If someone doesn't want to hear that, what is that saying about them? Because I want to hear it because I want to learn from it.
Yeah.
And I also feel for you. I can be empathetic and understand what a traumatic time. So I remember you telling me over Zoom, everyone's questioning you. You ran out of money. So savings are now gone. Everything's gone. What I'd love to discuss now is how did you start to make money and the work that you're doing within schools, with the police. Tell me about all of that side of what you're doing, present day, Jeremy, now.
Yeah. So I started putting out that I can come and speak to the students in your school. Someone said to me, you need to start taking bookings and doing speaking.
How old are these kids?
So I began in secondary schools.
Right.
So 11 to 16. And I thought, I haven't thought about that. And I developed a skill set. I'm 3 years in.
Yeah.
Writing posts, done the open mic, over 100 events at the open mic scene. I developed a skill, communicating with the audience all the time, thinking about writing a book, all of those things. And I thought, I could probably do that. I could probably communicate with these young teenagers. So I started reaching out to schools. I sent emails out like every day for probably about a year. Now I'm starting to rely on people around me for money because I'd spent all my money. Some people think that's crazy. I should have invested it in a property, but this is bigger than that.
Yeah.
Right? So I start relying on some family for money and staying at their houses and, not paying anything for rent or food. And I'm constantly moving around, needing a bit of money for petrol. It was all that situation. And then finally I started getting a chance in schools. Now that was in 2022. And now things have evolved. So I now speak in schools, secondary schools, to 11 to 16-year-olds. I've recently just managed to break into primary schools. So that is 6 to 11. I deliver training to teachers. I deliver sessions to parents. I deliver training to the police. My first one is in January. I deliver training to foster parents and social workers. So what actually ended up happening since 2022 is every booking that I got, I needed to write something for, much like the open mic scene. Every time there was a theme, I needed to write something for it. So I'd already gone through that process.
Yeah.
So the foster parent agency take on children from troubled backgrounds. Lots of them come from abusive homes. The parents want to be as skilled as they can be. So I write something for them. A set of 15-year-olds need to be talked to very differently to 13-year-olds, to 11-year-olds, to 9-year-olds, to 7-year-olds. They all need to be talked to very differently. You need to come up with a skill set. You need to come up with a technique. What's age appropriate for them? You need to do the research. Parents need to be spoken to very differently to what teachers do because they're a different role. So I developed all of these sessions and they're always developing, right? They're always developing. I just presented to year 8, 9 and 11 at a school last week. The teachers came up to me and said, these bits are excellent. I said, tell me what bits aren't good. Tell me what bits you think are missing. They'd be like, well, I reckon the students would want to hear about this, this, this. I walk around after my session with some of the students and I say, what do you think needs improving? And they love that conversation because this is an evolving document.
And I think it's so timely now because there's sexual abuse physically, which you went through, which people suffer, but there's digital. The digital stuff is a whole different thing. So what you're creating is something massive, global. It's not just UK, it's global. Yeah. And it saddens me to say it, but I think it's only going to get worse. The way people can manipulate and come into children's lives is only going to get worse.
Yeah.
Right? And then from that comes all the things that happen to someone who's faced sexual abuse, the trauma, the depression, the relationship issues, which I'm sure you can help people with and create systems for. So huge responsibility, but huge opportunity to help so many people.
And opportunity is the correct word. And I believe it's all possible.
Yeah.
I believe the correct measures can be put in place to increase the safety of these young children.
So what do parents need to know? I know you said it's very specific different age groups, right? My daughter's 10. So for me to try to have a conversation with her about sexual abuse, I would not know where to start. One, she's not going to talk to me as a dad about, but is there a kind of broad kind of range of advice that you could give to parents for children at different ages, just to give them some sort of idea of what to look out for?
The first thing is, always remember this sentence. If you're ever worried or feeling uncomfortable about anything, please remember you can always come to me because I will help you and you will never be in trouble for what's gone on. Done. Now that is a sentence for across the board, right? Because your 7-year-old who plays FIFA on Xbox Live, who in the spur of the moment gave out their number to somebody who they've been playing with, and now that number is bombarding them with messages, needs to hear that sentence.
Does it matter if the father or the mother says it to the son or daughter? Is it just
everyone?
Everyone.
Set up the correct home environment.
Yeah.
Set up a home environment that's got confidence and strength, not fear, right? That young 7-year-old playing Xbox Live who's made a mistake because he knows, I knew not to do that because the school told me, but I'm not going to go and tell dad because he'll just take the Xbox away.
Which does happen. There's fear over certain parents, aren't there?
Yeah.
Dad's more the mum or vice versa.
They need to feel supported with things of a sexual context. Now, you don't go to a 7-year-old and say, you do know that there are people out there that sexually abuse people. First of all, they won't even understand what that means. And secondly, you don't want to make them fearful of the world. So what you do is you teach them the rules around their body and other people's bodies. There are some private areas. I think private areas is not the correct term because every time you say private areas with primary school children, they get all giggly. It's just no-go zones, right? And those no-go zones are the ones that are underneath your swimwear. So for boys, it's underneath your trunks. For girls, it's underneath your trunks and your chest area, right? They're just the no-go zones. We have some rules around them to keep them safe. So nobody goes near yours and you don't go near anyone else's. So no showing, no touching, no games. That means when you're online and when you're in person. Now, that is not scary, right? Okay, they may giggle a little bit, but once you tell them every month for 5 months, they're not giggling about that anymore. They just know it. In fact, they're like, I know about that already. Well, then they know about it, right? And they know that they can come to you if they ever find themselves in a situation where those rules have been broken and they're not going to get in trouble for it.
This might seem like a really silly question.
Please.
So anywhere under swimwear are no-go areas.
Yeah.
How do you make them also understand about the age? Because as children get older, they meet the first person that they kiss. They meet someone they like. But mum and dad said these are no-go areas. Yeah. So how do we make the distinction between there might be someone who you like, you're attracted to, and at whatever age the parents decide it's okay for that stuff to happen, it's up to them, that they feel comfortable knowing you can touch my no-go areas, but you can't touch my no-go areas. So how do you make that distinction?
Well, when a child starts to become pubescent and starts to show signs of being interested in that kind of way, so they're either just approaching puberty or they're in the middle of puberty, well, they're a lot more of a different human being now, right? So schools would have already brilliantly taught about consent and sexual interactions, right? So schools are doing a phenomenal job at this, age appropriately building that knowledge. So you don't have a 13-year-old who's starting to be curious in a sexual way, still thinking there are no-go zones on their body, right? They know the rules, And then obviously 15 is different. It's a huge, in that later teenage years is about consent, understanding consensual relationships, how to judge whether something is consensual, how to communicate with your partner. You start building with that, right? So what you need to do, in my opinion, as a parent, is make sure that the house with this subject is open. First of all, prepubescent children, just teach them the rules on their body. No showing, no touching, no games around those. That's in person and online. Then when they start to enter puberty, you can talk to them about what's going on, consensual relationships. And remember, if you're ever feeling worried or uncomfortable about something, you can speak to me because I will help you. So you set the home up correctly. It's a confident, thriving environment. To the best of your ability, we are all very busy as parents, but you would have wished that you weren't so busy if something happens to your child and you didn't do these things. And I can tell you that for sure. The school already brilliantly setting up the school environment. Then the home and the school are the two places where your child is mostly. And they're both confident and thriving environments. Schools are doing their best. They are underfunded. Teachers are stressed and they're stretched, right? That's why I deliver these trainings to teachers, because safeguarding is very clinical and formal. I bring real life to the table. And when schools approach me, and I know I shouldn't do this because I have to make a living out of it, but when schools approach me and they say, we know your fee, which is very low anyway, but we've only got this much. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do it, right? Let's just get this information out there, right? So you've set the home, the parents have set the home up, the school have set the environment up, you're now working as a team. You've communicated as a parent with the school. What are you teaching in PSHE this year? They'll send you the guidelines. So now you know what how to age appropriately talk to your child, given by the government guidelines. You also know as a person what you were like at that age. Now you're working as a team with the school. You can push the school as a parent, if you have time, to say, what is it that you're doing around this? How are the teachers being trained? That would be good as well. And the final part of this is inspiring the children, right? So inspiring the children with good role models, inspiring the teenagers with people who have been through this, coming into the school and speaking to them about it and showing how they moved through it. Now you've set up the home, you've set up the school, both places that the child is mostly in, and you've inspired the child. Now, what you've done there is you've maximized the chance that that child will come forward before it's too late. You're not going to save everyone.
And now I was just going to add, we have to bear in mind that they're going to make mistakes, and we're all human.
They're going to make mistakes.
Yeah.
There are some personalities that are susceptible to grooming.
Yeah.
Right? We have to accept that.
Yeah.
But we should damn right do our best to align everything so that it doesn't happen.
Yeah. That's powerful, man. I think the area that maybe that we could touch on a little bit is there's school, there's home, but there's also the device, which is the third area, which is a child, and that's it. There's no one else in there. So how do you protect a child from what they're seeing on a screen? Well,
it's just good conversation, because you are not there when they're wherever they are at in their tablet or mobile phone. All of a sudden, what you've done pre-internet is dropped the kid at the playground and gone home.
Yeah.
That's essentially what you've done. But what we're supposed to do about it is the culture. And I go into primary schools and they're using iPads. So you're never going to get away from these screens, right? And, you know, there's obviously the discussion of, if you don't give your child a screen, are you actually doing more damage because they're isolated and can't get involved in the conversation? I always remember the child that didn't have a TV when we were younger. So what we're supposed to do with this, I'm not sure, right? Hopefully the government are going to come in and start doing things like Australia have done, no social media for under 16s. I hope one day we will see a rule of no smartphones for under 12s at all. They don't need it. So we're catching up with the developing technology, but open, good communication is the best that you can do. You can put firewalls on your internet and all of that stuff, but they will find a way around that, no problem. They know more than you. Good, open conversation, regular conversation, right? Don't be too busy for this. Take the opportunity when you're serving dinner to chat. Take the opportunity in the car. Apparently, a lot of foster parents say the best time to talk to the child that's in my care is in the car, because you're both facing the same way.
100%.
Right? And it's not a threatening conversation. It's not intense. Do your best.
I tend to do it with my daughter while we're doing something.
Yeah.
Because if I sit her there and look at her, now she's defensive.
Yeah.
She feels like I'm making accusations.
Yeah.
She feels worried.
Yeah.
I talk to her about it. I think one of the other dangers are these games which have these chat rooms in it. And then you can have other people, other users log on. You know, there's some people there who shouldn't be there.
There are people there that shouldn't be there.
Yeah. I've had conversations with my daughter, and I've said to her, I trust in you that if there's anything you see or happens that you don't feel comfortable with or you are unsure about, you will tell me.
Yeah.
And that you know that I'm not going to judge you for it.
You're not going to get in trouble.
You're not going to get in trouble. And I firmly believe she knows that. Her teachers have said stuff to me where she said, my dad said that's not okay, so I'm not going to do it. That suffered in school. So that gives me a sense of confidence. I know I can't protect her from everything. But you're right, making the time and being aware and just seeing what are they doing and how are they reacting. We can't be too busy for them.
Yeah.
Like you said.
Yeah.
So what's the dream, man? What's the dream of where you're going to take this and what you're going to do? Because what you're doing for me is hugely inspiring.
So I want this conversation on everybody's table, right? I want it in every circle. I want it in every home. I want to create great film that everybody watches, Netflix, that type of platform, right? Engrossing storytelling that people can learn through. I want to build my own podcast on the Jeremy Indica podcast and bring great guests on, psychologists, child development experts, the police, to help us unravel this crime. To help us understand it as a society in more than we are currently understanding it, being led by the sensationalization of it by the media. I also want to one day make changes within Parliament and make changes within the law. How we handle offenders, what we do after they're released from prison, what the laws around this whole thing are, because they're outdated and they haven't been updated for a long time. So I'm going all the way with this. I believe it's all possible. It's going to be a big, long learning process and met with many, many challenges. But it's important, regardless of any discomfort or setbacks, you've got to keep going. As parents, as people, we've got to keep going because the children and teenagers are relying on us to sort this situation out. It is not up to them to sort it out. We're here to protect them. That's one of our primary roles, and we need to do it better. And that's why we must continue.
I was going to ask you what's one thing we haven't spoken about, but I think you just summarized it there.
Okay, but I actually have one.
Okay.
Something that we didn't get onto, which I'd love to come back on at some point and talk about, is when the police investigation was closed, I got so angry that I found out where this man lived and I went and knocked on his door to confront him. That is a story within itself. I made some mistakes there. It could have got really bad. He called for a knife when he opened the door and saw me. But the result of it is the police arrived, they arrested me, and he took me to court, magistrate's court, and prosecuted me. And I was found guilty. So that is something we haven't talked about. And I'd like you to bring me on for another episode to go through that part of the story because it deserves another episode.
Wow, man. I kind of want to dig into that, but I feel like, we've been speaking already for a while, and I think you're right. That's a part two. That's part two. And we could unravel that in many different ways. Yeah. But what you shared today has been so powerful. I'm quite a spiritual guy, and I always feel like we have a purpose, and everything that happens to us in life happens for a very specific reason. And we gain the tools and the experience and the knowledge we need to fulfill our greater mission through everything that we encounter and do. So for you to being an engineer and the mindset you can use for that, for what you're doing now, is important. The lived experience you've got is important, because I think if you're going to tell people that change needs to be made, or if you're going to talk to students, the fact that you've been through it changes how they see you.
Yeah.
Same reason I set up the men's mental health platform. I've got lived experience. People can trust that I've been through it. I understand the pain. I think your work you're doing is inspiring. I think there's ways for us to collab on stuff. I think there's a lot of stuff that can happen. And you've given me a lot to think about, and I've learned a lot through this conversation.
Great.
I think you're a great storyteller.
Great.
And I love how you've turned a difficult, very difficult time into something so positive. And the amount of change you're creating is really inspiring, man. So I just want to say thank you for coming on. I really enjoyed the conversation. And if there's anything we can do to help serve your cause, we're here. So thank you so much, man.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. Thank you.